warm welcome to you all. Hope you'll thoroughly enjoy our programme.
Oh, hello.
It's the Real Britannia podcast, a very British podcast about very British movies with just a hint of professionalism. Good morning, Scott here. This week it is a Hammer episode, so along with my usual co-host Stephen, good morning.
Morning.
We have Mark, hello.
Hey. All ready to go?
Yes, but it just seems ages since we've been together.
Oh, it didn't seem that long to me.
Did it not? Oh, bless you.
Time flies when you're enjoying not podcasting with us.
He got up this morning and thought, oh God, I've got to talk to those two again.
Yeah, I have to say I've kind of been locked away for another podcast that did this massive watch of all the horror films made in 2022, and it turned out there was 50 odd. So I've been kind of doing that for the longest possible time.
Oh, some good, some bad?
A lot of good, a really good year.
Yeah.
I'd say 10% were bad, so which is really good batting average for any year. Horror.
That's surprising.
Yeah, some amazing ones too.
Okay, let's go straight into this. I tried to find a trailer. There is a trailer out there, but it's all music. It's a very dramatic trailer, 2 minutes long, but it's all just dun 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 and like captions coming up and stuff like that. So I'm going to find a decent bit of dialogue to insert here. We'll be back after this.
Listen to the beat of your heart, Marianne. You hear the beat of fear within you? Fear that will rise to a shattering crescendo of terror. You have strayed into a world of evil, where frightened people are held in the grip of unearthly horror. Beware of pity for the handsome prisoner in the Castle Meister. Beware of love, for in your heart is only the pulsating throb of terror. Starring Peter Cushing as the Doctor locked in mortal combat with overwhelming evil. Also starring Frida Jackson as Greta, who served the vampires with insane loyalty.
You needn't be afraid, she's dead.
Martita Hunt, the Baroness, victim of her own son. Beautiful Yvonne Mollor, France's latest sex kitten, as Marianne, whose beauty was her passport to the twilight world of the undead. David Peel as the Baron, blindingly handsome. Yet his kiss transformed the most beautiful girls into monsters.
Okay, it's our Hammer movie, The Brides of Dracula, released in the UK 1960, directed by Terence Fisher, written by Jimmy Sangster, and starring Peter Cushing, Martita Hunt, Yvonne Mollor, David Peel, and some other famous faces such as Miles Malleson pops up amongst some of the supporting cast, and the Ripper is in there.
The Ripper!
Well,
yes,
he's in
there.
there. Amazing how we get excited over like, not Peter Cushing, but Michael Ripper. The plot. A young teacher, on her way to a position in Transylvania, helps a young man escape the shackles his mother has put on him. In doing so, she innocently unleashes the horrors of the undead once again on the populace, including those at her school for ladies. Luckily for some, Dr. Van Helsing is already on his way. Let's get this out of the way first of all. Brides of Dracula. No Dracula, no brides.
Nah. No, none of it. It was originally going to be called something like Disciples of Dracula, which would have made much more
Dracula's
sense.
Disciple, yeah.
Yeah, something like that. But yeah. But having said that, it's the same vibe as the first film. I mean, Van Helsing's, they can't call it Van Helsing, I guess. So what are they going to do, right?
Yeah, but the link is...
It was also at the working title Dracula 2. So they could have
Dracula 2.
Did it?
Electric Boogaloo. Right, okay.
Dead and Loving It. No, that's somebody else.
I have to say, right from the off, I've watched this film many times, and I did a bit more digging than usual.
Okay. Yep.
Which is some digging, is what I'm taught it's mean. And the actual original opening narration is by George Melly, the jazz guy, writer, George Melly, who has got a relation in this movie as well. We'll come to
Andre
that.
Melly, yes.
Yeah, you said it. And I did not know they were brother and sister either.
Let's get out of the way. I knew they were because Andre Melly was Tony Hancock's girlfriend in season 3 and 4, I think it was, of the original Hancock's Half Hour.
That's right.
She appeared in a few Benny Hills.
She wasn't like a Hell's Angel type of nose. She was like an interviewer. She was like the straight man in interviews.
Yeah.
Straight woman, I mean, in interviews.
Interviewing Fred
and she was very good.
Yeah.
She was very good.
Yeah. And a long time she appeared on Just a Minute as well for a long, long time in the 70s. But yeah, that's still George Melly's sister. But George Melly does the opening narration.
Yes. But they're talking about, talking about the cult and stuff like that, which I'd never like because it isn't a cult, is it?
No.
It's not a belief system. You're actually a different thing.
Yeah, it's a very severe illness or something. Yeah.
A disease of the blood, shall we say?
Bloodborne disease, yeah. I think I'd seen it, but nothing in this movie was familiar apart from the Andre Melly part where she turns into the vampire, because that's quite iconic. That's used quite often, that scene. And it was sort of like a first time watch for me watching it last night. And for something that isn't really spoken about as much as some of the other Hammers, I think, I'm going to say this is top tier for me so far out of what we've covered so far, because it looks like a Hammer movie. It's almost vampire movie by numbers. There's nothing over the top or anything out of the ordinary in this, apart from the fact that there is no Dracula. You've got to get used to seeing this other guy in the lead role. But, there's the comfort that Peter Cushing's in there amongst some of the other famous Hammer faces. You guys have seen this a couple of times, haven't you? Well, Mark, you've seen it a fair few, haven't you?
It must be at least half a dozen times. At least. Yeah. This is my favourite Dracula film just coming out. Hammer Dracula film. Let's qualify that. Hammer Dracula film. Even though Dracula's not in it, this is my favourite.
That's interesting.
And there's some other really good ones. Don't get me wrong. There are some other really good ones, but this is my favourite. I think I just really like how Van Helsing conducts himself. And some of these shots and things like that. Yeah, so I think this is a strong entry. Even though it takes a while to get warmed up, we don't see Van Helsing for the first half hour, at least, right?
There's no vampire activity at all, is there, for the first act?
And there's several reasons I like it, as well as Van Helsing. But as we go through the plot, I'll talk about that.
Okay, Stephen, you must have seen this before, haven't you?
I have a couple of times, but when I came to watch it the other night, I couldn't remember really anything in advance on it. As it was progressing, it was bringing it back to me that I'd seen this, that scene or that bit. Came back. Agree with the assessment. There's a real strength in this. It's a steady thing in certain aspects, but I think it's quite well scripted and some of the dialogue. There's one or two little bits where there's just a throwaway couple of words here and there that just seem to make it more considered or more subtle in some respects that really impressed me. So maybe not favourite Dracula film, but certainly a favourite vampire film. I can concur that there is a real strength to this that I think is overlooked compared to the others. There was only really, one real weakness in it, which I'll come to later on, but otherwise it was a strong showing, absolutely.
But it looks magnificent, doesn't it? Those sets, I mean, we must have come across those sets in previous Hammer productions, but it just looked, I'm colourblind, you guys know that, but the colour palette on this is probably over the top.
Oh, yeah, the Technicolor's wonderful.
But it's beautiful, isn't it? Yeah. And it's a really great looking film. And as Stephen said, some of the flourishes in the script as well, there's like 4 people credited or uncredited that wrote the script. There was Jimmy Sangster, Peter Bryan, Edward Percy, and Anthony Hines has chipped in as well. So you're going to end up with a decent plot. Do you think that Lee was originally slated to be in this?
I'm not sure, actually. I've never been sure. I just feel like the structure would... Dracula doesn't fit in this, except maybe as a cameo, because they talk about him going to see Dracula, and that's how he became a vampire, right? Because the mother encouraged it. So he wouldn't be a main character if he was in it, I don't think.
He was. Originally, this was going to be a direct sequel, and they were going to be having him in it, and then they tried to scale back to just having a cameo, but he refused to do it, did Lee, because of the fear of typecasting, weirdly. And so it went through lots of reiterations with rewrites and the whole disciples and brides, and the script seemingly got overhauled multiple times from the point at which they originally decided to do the film to when it actually, and even when they were on set, apparently they were rewriting bits and pieces as they were going along. So originally they wanted to have Lee in it to capitalise on previous success, but he refused. So that's where they tried to find various methods to get around it, and the disciples bit was somewhere they went, but then they decided that no, the brides was more of a selling point. But fortunately, just gloss over the fact that he wasn't in it. But they still tried to get him as a cameo. But as you say, he didn't end up in it, unfortunately. And I think
okay,
it's the only thing that might have added to it that I think was perhaps something on a wish list to have had some cameo, maybe. But
he could have turned up at the end, maybe, or something like that, possibly. You talk about the rewriting as it was going on. That explains. There's one quite major structural weakness in this, which is the unexplained amnesia of the lady in question. that is kind of what. It's like she doesn't remember anything. It's so weird. But presumably that's a vampire's influence without the vampire no scene to sort of suggest that, which is a bit odd.
She's the only weak point in this for me. I mean, bless her, English is her second language, and it must be difficult, and the acting does come across as a bit stilted. But even then, like you said, the amnesia part, the fact that she readily accepts his proposal of marriage, knowing what he is, or, the fact that she's only just unshackled him from a wall, there are a couple of bits, I don't know, that do stand out.
I mean, she looks the part, definitely, and she's got a touch of the Brigitte Bardot about her as well, in the way she,
very similar,
in her face, and I think she was all right. I accept her acting wasn't top tier, but I thought it was fine, and the real actor here is probably Peter Cushing, right? But no, that's not quite true. One of the things about this film I really like is the very strong female performances. Particularly Greta, Freda Jackson as Greta. But Martita Hunt as the mother was really good too. One of the reasons I really like this film is one of the strongest female roles in all of Hammer. There's a couple of other films where there's some strong female roles, but this is a particularly strong one. Greta in particular.
Can we talk about Freda Jackson, who plays Greta? I think she was really almost the star of the movie. She almost eclipsed Peter Cushing. Yeah,
she almost derailed the whole movie because she was so good, right?
I had to look up Freda Jackson's CV after watching this, because I thought, I know that face. Why isn't this woman more famous to me? Why hasn't this woman been acting in everything I've seen before? Because she was absolutely brilliant in this. Clash of the Titans, 1981. Great Ray Harryhausen film, right? Probably the only movie I've been to the cinema twice in the same week to see. You know the 3 witches that share the eye?
Yeah.
She's one of the witches.
She's one of the witches, yeah.
But she's great. She is a brilliant actress in this. And as you just touched upon there, to have Martita Hunt, that great stalwart of British stage and screen, Miss Havisham, the ultimate, Miss Havisham that everybody remembers, hamming it up, in this and agreeing to go into vampire makeup and stuff like this. I think that was a great coup for the movie to have somebody like that in it.
Yeah.
I think despite, acting and not, you're not meant to be showing yourself, you're meant to be showing the character. I think there was elements where you could see that she was enjoying herself, to be fair. It peeked through the character to show her real self actually enjoying this. Just not just another acting gig. This was one that different scale to what she was known for, but she's just enjoying it. Just
probably had a bit of fun doing it. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Talking of fun, every time you see Miles Malleson turn up in a movie, you're expecting this, I don't know, it to develop into some sort of comedic sort of angle. But he plays it fairly straight in this.
Does he?
Well, there's an element of Miles Malleson.
I can add your speciality to my fee. Is that all right with you? And all that sort of stuff.
But it's not like, I don't know, room for one more inside or anything like that.
So it's straight for Miles Malleson rather than straight. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not Miles Malleson hamming it up. It's Miles Malleson doing a Miles Malleson.
Yeah.
Fairly reserved, I think. I mean, I was expecting it to get a bit more overblown when he appeared, but he didn't.
Well, him and Cushing are the only two people that appeared in Dracula previously.
He was in Dracula, wasn't he? Of course he was. That's where we saw him, wasn't he?
So, but yes, as you say, seeing him, you just know you're going to get a bit of a turn. And it's going to be a smile at the caricature that he plays. So it's always a bit of a joy there, no matter whether he's playing a vicar or playing a judge or playing, whatever the archetypes he always seems to play. It's always worth seeing him bumbling around.
Yeah. Baron Meinster. Let's talk about, the Dracula replacement here. David Peel, completely unknown. The guy had only appeared in several sort of TV productions before this. I'm pretty sure he retired 2 or 3 years later.
Yeah.
And what
Become an estate agent.
Was he an estate agent? Is that what he became?
Became an estate agent, and I think, that probably maybe better befitted his acting talents. He's the weakest link in the entire film, in my opinion. Him
doesn't sit right with you.
I just didn't think he was a very good actor, and I don't think he had the presence. Certainly, the downside, if we had Christopher Lee make a cameo in it, it would have really even more overshadowed the fact that there wasn't the same gravitas to David Peel.
Yeah.
Playing a vampire count, really. He probably tried his best, but I don't think he had a lot to live up to, and maybe it would be kind to say that.
Looking something up, how old would Christopher Lee have been in 1960?
37, 38?
Yeah, he was born in 22. There we go. Okay, so 38. David Peel was 39 when he made this.
Wow, he didn't look it.
No. And then when I thought, that's a bit old. But then I thought, no, because Christopher Lee must have been round about that sort of age as well. But David Peel was like, he turned 40.
He looked about 20, 25.
Yeah.
I thought he was okay. I mean, he wasn't a great actor, but I thought he was okay as the vampire. I've seen much worse in some of the Hammers when they've tried to do certain actors as vampires. Maybe not Hammer, but this era kind of stuff. So I thought he was okay, and it kind of worked for me. But the women were the strongest element of that side of the bad side,
Yeah, they should have just really maybe left it and maybe gone a bit more down the Karnstein type thing that did later on, particularly since they already had a school involved. A girls' school came into it, so
I like the girls' schools, don't I?
They decided to milk that one later on. But yeah, I think maybe they should have just maybe took a whole situation of having a count entirely out of the situation and just stuck to having the brides being the main focus for going and picking up victims and stuff, and doing it that way around. That might have been a better way to do it. I don't feel they made the best in that respect. But
I was expecting more from that. I was expecting more from the school. I was expecting that to become a major plot point. Instantly we get introduced to Mona Washbourne and the girls, and it just doesn't become anything, does it?
I have to say, when I was watching the film, when we pivoted to the girls' school, I went, yum, yum, but not in a kind of pervy way. In a, there's the larder. There's the larder for the vampire.
Just for a change, you weren't saying yum yum about a girls' school. That's very good. But yes, you've seen the larder, eh? Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he bit two of them. There was Andre Melly, and there was another girl, wasn't there? And I can't remember. But I mean, the girls' stuff was almost presaging some of the more genteel stuff Hammer started doing at this time. They toned down the horror a bit in some of their horror films. And that this was a kind of nod towards that direction of things, which was a shame. I always think Hammer should not have sort of backed off a little.
Well, it says it was X-rated on IMDb, but I read somewhere that obviously the first one, like Dracula, was X-rated, and they did tone this down a little bit. You get one little bit of blood. In the stake scene, don't you? And the bit with the holy water at the end when he gets thrown over his face, the makeup then is amazing. It's really good, that bit there.
Yeah.
But apart from that, yeah, it is quite gore-free, isn't it, this one?
Yeah, and also the vampires, the two vampire women at the end are fairly passive. They're just watching what's going on, right? They don't get involved at all. But just to go back, though, there's some excellent scenes throughout this film. I mean, that scene where Greta is encouraging the girl to come out of the grave, that was a really powerful scene.
I like that. Yeah. I really like that. You know, that Carrie moment with the hand coming through the earth. And that. Yes, that was amazing. That stood out for me. Steve,
no, I'm going to say, just agreeing with you, absolutely. That the slow creeper, you know, that insidious calling into the earth to try and draw the dead up, and then watching slowly as the hand then comes out of the earth. And absolutely, that scene, I think, was a very strong one that really is one of the finer scenes I think you'll find in Hammer throughout their in history, to be perfectly honest. So you're both right to highlight it.
But for every great scene like that, you know, which has stood out and we're all going, yep, great, absolutely brilliant, you get a bat on a string.
Yeah.
I did say it again. After the end, it was like, bat on a string. Great.
Apparently, the props department spent a lot of time and energy and a certain amount of money doing a really realistic bat that looked really good as far as put in flight and etc. And apparently it got either lost or damaged, and they had to within 24 hours try and cobble together.
No.
Yeah. This is the story behind the bat on a string.
Well, it is appallingly bad. I mean, Universal did it a bit better than this, and 20 odd years. Can you imagine what the Muppet guys could come up with if you? They
would have been.
Do you know what I mean? I mean, I know they were a decade odd later, but you know,
a lot more convincing.
Way better.
Jim Henson's Dracula is something I want to see now.
Oh, there is that great scene in the Muppet Show
already, right? There's the camp already.
Yeah, and you've also got when Vincent Price appeared on the Muppet Show, and Kermit has fangs, doesn't he? Have you seen
everyone has fangs. Everyone has fangs.
Talking of bats on strings, bats on strings is a key part of the Hammer Bingo, because we haven't really had a bat on a string in the Hammer Bingo yet.
I put it in because I remembered us having bats on strings in the Hammer films, and I put it in there, and then up until now we've not had any. And then it's like, maybe I remembered that more strongly than they actually did. And then it comes now, finally, long awaiting.
Well, let's mix things up. We normally do the Hall of Fame first, or the Crypt of Fame. Let's do Bob's Full House of Horror. Bob's Full House of Horror. This is our version of Bingo, where Stephen and I sort of selected some of the regular tropes that would appear in a Hammer horror movie. We've put them on cards in Bingo form, and we've now got the bonus card for the person who's in last place, just to try and even things up in this handicap system that we're trying to get in place. And interestingly, at the end of The Man Who Cheated Death, both Mark and I were on 30 points, and Stephen was ahead on 34. So Mark and I are going to take the bonus card today. I've got card number 1. No, sorry, Mark's got card number 1. I've got card 2. Stephen's got 3. Can we go in numerical order and take Mark first? Here we go, mate. Card number 1. Right, read them out, sir.
Right. Pitchfork Villager. No, there's none of that. Right. Ripper. Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So I'm on 1 for that. Mad Scientist. No. Spooky Glow. No. Blood Red Eyes, yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Definitely. And Good Blonde, Bad Brunette. Nah, there wasn't any of that, was there?
No, it was a...
There was some bad brunettes, no good blondes though.
No.
Himbo. Even I'm struggling to justify
There was no other male character.
No, it was really David Peels,
yeah.
So Miles Manson is not a himbo, right? Okay.
Nah, Miles Manson.
Not in this one, no.
Right, so I've got 2 there.
Because Barbara Shelley was also at the bottom of your card as well, wasn't it? So 2.
Yeah. Sorry, Barbara Shelley, yeah.
Do you want to take your bonus card as well, mate? Let's have a look at your bonus card.
Go on then. We can. So Kensington Gore, yep.
Definitely, yeah.
Jaunty hat. Now, I'm struggling to remember a specific, but I'm pretty sure the girl was wearing the girl at the beginning was wearing a hat now and again.
In the
Does
coach.
anyone remember? Yeah, she was.
In the coach, I'm sure.
And the coachman was kind of jaunty, had a kind of
See, I was almost tempted to go Spooky Coachman for that guy at the beginning when we get to Spooky Coachman, but he wasn't really
It's more
spooky. He was just
grumpy.
in a rush, wasn't he? He was
just grumpy Coachman. Yeah.
Okay, jaunty hat. We're giving
So
you
we'll put
Kensington
that
Gore. Excellent.
And Fangs. Yep. We definitely saw Fangs. Harold Goodwin. No, we didn't have any of that. Breathing Corpse. No, we didn't see any corpses. Even when I got staked, it was, we didn't see them. So, yeah. Hammer Glamour. Well, clearly.
Pretty much.
Bride. You know, all that. Skeleton or Skull. I don't recall any.
No, his skull sort of comes through a little bit when he gets the holy water thrown in his face, but not bones and such, so no.
And the bar pub already, yep. So there's 5 on the bonus card.
And 2 on your...
And 2, so I've got 7. 37.
7.
It's supposed to be on 37.
7 for Mark. Okay.
Okay, number
So that'd
2.
be me now, wouldn't it? Number 2.
Yeah.
Okay. Spooky Coachman. No, we got Grumpy Coachman in a rush in this one. Barbara Shelley. No. Mystery Monster. There was no mystery about this.
Well, I'm gonna back you up here. I think the fact is we didn't know he was the vampire. We just saw the manacles. He only revealed as a monster once the manacles came off. Really.
Oh, Stephen,
So, what do you think? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's an argument in favour of that which he's just put forward, and I'm not here to go and argue against people getting points, basically. So,
Well, I'm going with you two, so I'm going to take the point. Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Bat on a string. There it is. Get the point for the bat on a string.
Yeah.
But I'd lose out. No James Bernard score.
No, I've forgotten who scored this, but it was bombastic. Certainly in the trailer, but not in the
Yeah, that's normally a shoe-in for a point. James Bernard score. The himbo definitely not, as we've said. Inventive Crucifix. Ultimate.
Of course.
yeah.
It climaxed on an inventive crucifix. Amazing bit of end scene stuff. We need to talk about the end scene.
I've got questions about that as well. Yeah. Okay. Transform terror. Do people being vampirised become transform terrors, or are we talking more?
Got a couple of that. We got 3 of them, didn't we? We got the 2 girls and the mum.
Okay, I'm happy to take that if you're happy to give it to me.
You got 4 there, and 5 for the bonus as well. So 9. So 39 you're on.
Hang on, I haven't done the bonus yet.
No, but I did the bonus and you'd get the same, wouldn't you?
Oh, of course, I'd only be one right 5.
Yeah.
Also 5, yeah? I wouldn't get any different points, would I? Of course I wouldn't. So 5, you're saying, Mark, yes?
Yes.
5, so that puts me on 35.
4 and 5, 9. 39.
Right.
39,
okay.
Stephen.
So, plunging cleavage, I would argue that there's a certain point when Andrew Melly, when she's in a nightgown, there's a certain plunge.
Certainly Mark Tita Hunt wasn't.
Yeah, no, she wasn't, not this time. And again, Miles Mollison decided not to benefit us of his for that time. Deformed assistant.
No.
There's no deformed assistant.
The Ripper, though. Got the Ripper, thankfully.
Yep.
Thunder and Lightning.
I don't remember that. I don't remember any.
No, there wasn't. No, unfortunately, I don't get away with that one. Spooky Glow, we decided before that there wasn't any, and we also, on the Good Blonde Fat Brunette, I didn't win that one, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Mystery Monster, what did we decide on that one?
Yeah, we decided on that one.
No, we don't have a James Bernard score, unfortunately. So yes, I think I'm pretty light this time round.
So
that's is it a 3?
Yeah, it's a 3.
Makes it 33.
You're on 37 for Stephen.
37.
Yeah, which means
that's interesting.
Stephen and I are last on 37, and Scott goes into lead with 39.
So you two get the bonus card next time.
Yes.
I don't think I've not been in the lead since.
You've been in the lead all the way through.
I think I've been in the lead all the way through. This is the first time I've not been in the lead, yeah.
Which is why we brought in the bonus card, just to try and hobble you a bit.
Yeah, handicap, that's what it was,
Yeah, it's worked. Well done, Mark, for suggesting that. It's worked.
Yeah, handicap systems keep it interesting.
And there's only 2 points between us. Nobody is streaking ahead on this at all. Okay.
It's anyone's race.
Excellent. Right, so that is Bob's Full House of Horror. I think it'd be a good time to go into the Crypt of Fame and the Hall of Fame, guys. Let's just take a walk up the path and see what's in there. Okay, Stephen, the custodian of the Hall of Fame, and for the Hammer horror movies, the Crypt of Fame. Not a massive cast list for you this time, mate, I'm assuming.
No, it was compared to some of the recent other films that we've been doing recently, like Reach for the Sky and stuff. Hundreds of people, a cast of thousands. So, yes, it was a bit of a later endeavour this time round.
Wonderful.
So,
let us know who's in there, mate, and who's knocking on the door.
With regards to the Hammer, we'll do the Hammer first, and with regards to 3 appearances in Hammer films, so getting their own little alcove, is Miles Morrison.
3 Hammers.
Dracula and Hound of Baskervilles.
Of course, yeah.
So, and the tarantula as well. Oh no, the tarantula.
That was it. Yeah, that was Hound of Baskervilles, wasn't it? Yeah, I don't think the tarantula's only on 2 appearances. I think. So,
he'll reappear. He'll get inducted.
It will reappear. Yeah. So, we've got 4 appearances from 2 different people. One is Fred Johnson for Abominable Snowman, Curse of Frankenstein, and Quatermass Experiment, and Michael Mulcaster for Curse of Frankenstein, Hound of the Baskervilles, and Revenge of Frankenstein. Thankfully, on the 6 appearances, we've got 2 people there as well, 2 names that we recognise. So Michael Ripper,
6, yeah.
Man Who Could Cheat Death, Mummy, Quatermass 2, Revenge of Frankenstein, and X the Unknown, and then Jimmy Sangster. Very good pedigree on there as well.
Of course.
Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Man Who Could Cheat Death, Revenge of Frankenstein, and X the Unknown. Then 4 people with their 7th Hammer appearances. Jack Asher, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Man Who Could Cheat Death, Mummy, and Revenge of Frankenstein. Peter Cushing, Abominable Snowman, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Mummy, and Revenge of Frankenstein. Terence Fisher, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Man Who Could Cheat Death, Mummy, and Frankenstein, Revenge of Frankenstein, and Anthony Nelson Keyes as producer, with Abominable Snowman, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Mummy, and Revenge of Frankenstein. And then just 2 people with their 8th appearances, which is director Michael Carreras, Snowman, Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Mummy, Quatermass 2, Revenge of Frankenstein, and then Anthony Hind as the writer with Curse of Frankenstein, Dracula, Hound of the Baskervilles, Quatermass 2, Revenge of Frankenstein, and X the Unknown. You know, some of those, particularly like producer and writer-wise, it's pretty much like all the Hammers so far.
8 out of 11. Yeah, we've done 11 so far, so yeah.
So
that's a high bang, isn't it?
We were expecting it though, weren't we? We were expecting the backroom boys to be above some of the actors. Bernards
and the Fishers, and Jack Asher actually early days. Jack Asher will fall off because he's more early Hammer than later Hammer.
Yeah,
but
we may get a bit of a turnaround at some point in the mid-60s. Then that's interesting. So 8 out of 11. Nobody's got the full run, but wasn't expecting it.
Not yet. No, not at this point. But
I'm wondering who's. I'd bet money on it's either Cushing or Carreras will be the front runners in the end. Possibly Fisher, but
I reckon Ripper's going to be up there.
Oh yeah, Ripper.
The Ripper's going to be up there, top 3 at least. He's got to be, surely.
Well, again, he falls off as it gets into later ones, but he's going to still back quite high before we get to that point.
Yeah, it's always interesting. I love this, but we've also got the wider sort of like view of like the actual 160 plus movies away. Yeah, but now, luckily, Stephen has just hinted that the cast list wasn't as big as previous cast, but I bet you still had your work cut out for this, mate.
There was still a few to go through, yeah.
If you don't want to read out all the titles,
it's fine.
If you want to,
I'll read the titles out, but I'll miss out the Hammer ones I've already mentioned. So, just as far as second appearances, we've got Vera Cook, who was in a Hammer production, but it wasn't a Hammer horror; it was Cash on Demand. Marie Devereaux was in The Rebel, and Harry Pringle was in Three Hats for Lisa. So they're waiting in the vestibule to actually get a full entrance. Norman Pearce does actually get a full entry into the village hall now, in Which We Serve and Went the Day Well, 2 cracking films.
He'll cop up again, mate. He's got loads of movies under his belt.
Absolutely, yeah. 4th appearances, we've got Victor Brooks for Night to Remember, so somebody would like to remember. Sapphire and Violent Playground. Walter Henry for Eagle Has Landed, Heavens Above and Sweeney. Martita Hunt.
Excellent.
It's her fourth appearance for Admiral Crichton, Bunny Lake Is Missing, and Wicked Lady. And the aforementioned Michael Mulcaster, who has 3 Hammer horrors to his credit. And Fred Johnson, as previously mentioned, has a number of Hammer, but his 5th appearance added onto the Hammers is he was in Scrooge. Mona Washburn as well, 5 appearances. Doctor in the House, Dunkirk, If and Yield to the Night. Terence Fisher, as previously mentioned, with the 7 appearances. And Jack Asher is now on 8 because additional to his Hammer horrors, he also did Reach for the Sky.
Sneaky. Okay.
So, and that's the same for Anthony Nelson Keys. He had all the Hammers that we previously mentioned, plus Reach for the Sky. 9 appearances in total, though, for Michael Ripper, because he, additional to what we've mentioned previously, he also had Reach for the Sky. He also had Prize to Arms and Yield to the Night.
Okay. Wow, okay.
He's there, because I remember us saying about him in Reach for the Sky, and going, oh, there he is.
Yeah.
Everywhere. So,
nearly double figures. Excellent.
Absolutely, yeah. Michael Carreras, 10 appearances, just because we add into the Hammers. Cash on Demand. Peter Cushing as well gets the addition for 11 films, gets the addition of Cash on Demand, as well as Doctor Who and Lolita, as well as Violent Playground. So he's right up there. And then finally, the most overall appearances is Miles Morrison. Which 39 Steps, Admiral Crichton, Dead of Night, Dracula, Gideon's Day, Heavens Above, Hand of the Baskervilles, Man Who Never Was, Peeping Tom, Pirate's Progress, Scrooge, and Train of Events.
How many's that?
That's 13.
13? Right. He must be sort of top 5 then, because...
top 5 it is not... Obviously the top is heavily dominated by people with a certain surname. And then some of the... But no, I think he is actually on 5 from the top. So he's
anybody that hits over 12, they are top tier, aren't they? We've sort of worked out now.
Yeah, we respect to them regardless of what the actual digit is. That many appearances is amazing.
I don't want you to go back and sort of like try and scan all of these through again, but have any of the Harringtons or the Standevens and all those guys appeared in the Hammer horror?
No, as far as I'm aware.
They've appeared in every other movie apart from a Hammer production.
At this point,
Go on, what we thinking?
I was going to say, I think the Duchess is in a Hammer, but I can't remember which one.
That's a point, yes. That's a point.
I think she does. She does, yeah. But as you say, the
Harringtons and the Standevens and...
No,
That's interesting, isn't it? Why do you think that is? Is it because they were permanently working at Elstree or somewhere or Pinewood and they just didn't have a chance to get over to Bray? It just can't fit them in.
Yeah, I just don't think they let them out. I think they were just chained to the in the studio, and so they were like part of the scenery in the studios. So they would just put the right costume on them, so they were in the background, and I think maybe they were actually just ghosts that were actually, not able to leave the premises. That's something like that.
Well, I'll tell you what, we'll have a bonus to the bonus card that if Victor Harrington appears in a Hammer, you can have a point. We'll let you have a point if Victor Harrington appears.
Why not, eh?
That's strange, because as I say, they're so prolific and have appeared in every other movie, and they're not cropping up in any Hammer production.
And it is weird in that you could understand it if there was more of what the American system with the studio system where people were contracted and they weren't moving around to different studios, but it wasn't as strong. Maybe with some of the major stars there might have been some contracts early on in British cinema, but certainly that level they weren't being contracted to work. So whether it was just they were doing one gig and while they were there they said, just stick around, you can be in the next film. Just stick around,
start another one. Yeah.
And just can you just come next door? And they didn't have time to go.
Put on this hat.
Yeah. Or maybe they could only walk to the nearest studio and they couldn't travel all the way down to where Hammer was. But I don't think we're going to see a Harrington. I don't.
Be interested. We'll be looking out now.
Yeah, I just checked the Duchess, Marianne Stone. She does appear in 2 of She appears in more than 2 Hammer films, but in terms of gothic horror, she's in, I think, Curse of the Mummy's Tomb and Countess Dracula, which we haven't covered yet. So
later, late 60s. She's going to be there then. At least we've got her. Okay. Thank you, Stephen, for doing that, as always. A little bit easier this time round.
Yeah, it was a bit of relief to not have pundits.
I want to talk about the ending, but does anybody want to touch on anything else before we head that way?
Yeah, I'd just go back again about the strength of the women's performances.
Yeah.
This is probably the strongest performance from a woman in all of Hammer. Talking about Greta, Frida Jackson as Greta.
She does stand
really
out,
terrific. There's only a couple of other Hammer films where I think there are strong women. The women are allowed to give a strong performance, let's put it that way, because they're kind of very much secondary characters throughout most of Hammer. That is Ingrid Pitt in Countess Dracula.
Yes.
Who's a strong performance. And Martine Beswick in, and the title makes it sound ridiculous, but actually she's very good in this, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde.
Cool.
Those are the only other 2 I can really think of as strong performances. There's also some quite good, strong, powerful performances in both Quatermass and the Pit and The Devil Rides Out, but I think the ones I've said are the main, where they're central characters, let's put it that way.
What about Valerie Leon in, is it Curse of the Mummy?
Yeah, I mean, she's okay. But the role, a better actress would... I don't want to say anything bad about that. Let me think how to phrase this. Yes, that's an interesting one. But in terms of sort of having to deliver a strong performance, I think Greta didn't have to be a strong performance. It would have worked okay without that, but the fact is she brought it for this.
It stood out. And not a great deal of screen time as well when you look at the whole
really
picture.
Memorable and powerful.
And as you guys both mentioned, that particular scene where she's summoning the
coming
body
out of the grave, encouraging the vampire to come out like she was born to it. It was amazing.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with that. Shall we head towards the ending? Yeah. Inventive crucifixes, holy water, Cushing getting bitten.
Yeah. I mean, what a fantastically dynamic performance from Cushing, jumping all over the place, selling the fact that he stuck something on his neck, the brand on his neck, and getting rid of it. I also really like, just before the ending, there's where he first kind of confronts the Baron, the flourish he does with the crucifix, he just pulls it out, boom. That's an amazing turn. He's so alpha in this. He does that in both Frankenstein and Van Helsing roles. He's so alpha compared to everyone else. Yeah, it's amazing.
Yeah, Stephen, you were going to say, mate, it's just an incredible performance from Cushing, isn't it?
It is absolutely the action side of him, which a lot of people look back on him and see him as being, obviously we know he was very cultured and a gentle soul in real life as a person. And to see him not being this scholarly figure on screen and in some respects some sort of more avuncular, he's actually suddenly throwing himself into action. I think putting to shame people like Tom Cruise who do their own stunts.
Yeah, true.
Because there wouldn't have been anything near the level of health and safety and everything etc. put in. This is why we hear stories about him and Christopher Lee, in fairness, doing bits and pieces and end up having to complete the film with an injury because they've decided to throw themselves body and soul into the film and the stunts. It shows really what we had when we had those two. But this it does the action and sets it off incredibly well. And with the background is what you said earlier of the sets being so archetypal, which they are. It's fantastic that the way that it's been done, and I think this is a culmination of a number of bits of previous Hammer films coming together to create one of the best examples, as Mark pointed out.
It's just amazing because you've got everything. You've got superhuman Van Helsing leaping about, as Mark said. We've got flames. You can't have an ending to a Hammer movie without something being set on fire.
Yeah, it was scary. Those flames were scary to me. Wow, that looked dangerous.
That should be on a bingo card as well, yeah. Flaming ending. Yeah.
How did the whole thing about Cushing curing himself with the brand and the holy water sit with you guys? I mean, have they upset the folklore a bit here of the history of vampires? Or because is that ever brought back in another movie? Is the only time we see it?
I think there's other films where people do cure themselves. I mean, basically they all to the law to sue. There are definitely. I mean, I'm thinking of Near Dark. The guy has to be bitten 3 times before he becomes a vampire.
Yeah.
And The Lost Boys as a similar kind of thing. So this does reoccur decades later. I think it's terrific. I think it's absolutely terrific. Really, really powerful.
I think the folklore is very difficult because there is some of this does spoil the folklore of what they previously have been set out, particularly within just within Hammer, unfortunately. But there are various bits where not everybody who gets bitten by gets fed on by a vampire becomes a vampire, and whether they've got to spit back into it basically or do any magical rite over them or anything like that. But if you go into the folklore, then seemingly at one point it was set up that if you killed the first vampire, then all the rest of them would either die themselves or would be cured. But surely Dracula had already been killed, so where did these other ones that we had in this film come from? It was, so I think you have to basically fall back on the whole thing that I remember many years ago watching the Red Dwarf Smeg-Ups, going through readers' letters and stuff, and one of the answers to the questions was, it's just a TV series. That's why the continuity or the rules don't apply, because it's all dramatic license, because it is just a story.
Brilliant.
So I think, to some extent, if it enhances the film and makes the film work, then we just ignore that there's a continuity upset with etc.
Yeah. It serves the plot. I have to say there was an entirely different ending plan for this film.
Okay.
So this fantastic ending we got, and I have to just say, so people define classic films as films where one of the definitions of a classic film is where every scene is good, but there's at least 3 great scenes. Now, that's not true of this. There's scenes in this which aren't good. However, there are 2 classic scenes. The Greta, coming out the grave, and this ending. This is a classic ending for it. One of the great endings of a Hammer film, in my opinion. However, the original ending had Van Helsing summoning up using black magic a load of vampire bats to attack. Peter Cushing flat out refused. He said Van Helsing would not indulge in black magic. It's just not right. That's just not going to happen. They did repurpose that in the film called Kiss of the Vampire, which we'll get to. But this was basically an entirely different ending from the original plan.
It works. Yeah. It certainly works. It's one of the more memorable endings. Those inventive crucifix endings are always stick in your mind. And again, sort of playing a bit with the folklore, does that mean that vampires are frightened of anything that's like cross-shaped? Because it isn't a physical crucifix, it's just the shadow of a cross.
Yeah.
But again, as Stephen said, it's only a movie. It's only a movie. We can do what we want.
But then, is it, because we've had candlesticks put together and and things, and is it, again, if you get into discussions about potential, if there was reality behind it and the reasoning behind these things, would it be that the intention of making the cross was to basically summon the power of Christ, and that's why it has an effect when Cushing does it with the windmill, rather than it just being any crossed over 2 lines? It's only when somebody has got the will behind it to be summoning.
Yeah, I think you're spot on there. It's the deliberate invocation of the crucifixion.
I just want to know, would it work with fingers? If you've done a cross with your fingers.
I think it would. I think I've seen that in a film. And
that's what I was thinking.
Crushes the fingers.
But you've got to do it. You've got to do it upright and horizontal, because if you do it diagonally, then you're just summoning St. Andrew, and he's not.
That'd be a completely different story.
I think it's more like the Holy was the most damaging thing to the vampire, and the evocation of a crucifix is what finished it off, is how I read it.
And that holy water, the makeup in the face was great as well. That really sort of finished it off nicely.
Yeah.
Top tier Hammer for me. It's definitely a favourite of you two as well. I can tell from your enthusiasm. It's a great one, this, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, it's got its weak spots and its weak plotting, but there's just iconic moments that make you, those are what you remember from this film, right?
Yeah. But I think it's got subtleties in it that are easy to miss. When you've got a Hammer, you're watching it for the spectacle, you're enjoying the romp and to some extent the camp in it, and that's all fine, and you get some of that in this, but there's subtleties in this, as we said, with little bits of dialogue that are just the end of a sentence before it cuts to another scene that are going, oh, that was interesting. Or when they're in the inn and Matt Eater Hunt is about to take her away to the castle, And just in the background, that the innkeeper and his wife, that they're acting incredibly well with the sort of, how do we tell her we can't stop her from going? What do we do? And the conflict on their faces. That didn't need to be there, but it was because people were just like trying to do a good job in this thing. And as I said, for me, the only real weak link, I didn't feel that David Peele was up to it. But otherwise, no, this is absolutely top tier. And people need to make time for it and not just rewatch the regular ones that people normally think.
Yeah, it's overlooked, isn't it, to a certain degree, this one, I feel. It's not spoken about as much as some of the others. Also overlooked and not spoken about, the double bill that this was with was a film called The Leech Woman. It's an American B movie.
But you're married to her.
Yes. The plot actually sounds quite familiar. The tagline, she drained men.
I think I've been out with her. Yeah.
Well, listen to this. The tagline is, she drained men of their loves and their lives.
She sounds fantastic.
I'm checking. To give you some idea of how probably bad this movie is, it was featured on Mystery Science Theatre 3000 at one point, so you know that they're going to be ripping the pee out of that or something.
She drained men of what? What was it?
Their loves and their lives.
What, every night?
Apparently so. In the savage heat of the jungle, she found the forbidden secret of eternal youth as well. So I'm looking at that. I'm going back and having a look at that one. Okay. We won't be reviewing The Leech Woman next time, but next time sees the return of Christopher Lee. Back after this. Okay, that was Brides of Dracula from 1960. Our next movie is also from 1960. And as I said, it features Christopher Lee, but he's not the star of this. And Mark only watched this for the first time recently for The Good, the Bad and the Odd podcast. Directed by Terence Fisher, starring Paul Massey, who we know as the lead, well, not the lead, as the romantic lead in The Rebel, is the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. Mark, tell us about the Two Faces of Dr. Jekyll. What do you remember about it?
It feels like a second unit job. In that, I think, I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember. Was it Terence Fisher or did someone else direct? I think someone else.
It's got Terence Fisher as director. It says.
My mistake. Yeah. But it hasn't got the look and feel, so I'm going to guess it's not Jack Asher. But I could be wrong.
No, it is. It's Jack Asher, Michael Carreras. Wolf Mankiewicz is the screenplay.
Right. It doesn't look quite like... It hasn't quite got the gothic look that the others have. However, it's surprisingly good. I was quite surprised how good this was. I wasn't expecting it to be much. I don't want to big out too much, but I quite enjoyed it, and I think the lead, I was surprised how good the lead was, because I only know him from The Rebel, and I'm used to him as that kind of sort of milquetoast kind of character, but he delivers on this. Yeah, I like this one.
Well, we know from Sapphire as well, don't we?
Yeah. It's very good in Sapphire.
Yeah. Have you seen this one, Stephen? I don't think I have.
I have. Yeah, you have? I actually I've seen it within the last 3 or 4 months, I think, because it was on television. You know, I can only watch terrestrial, so it was on television, and I happened upon it. I didn't see it all the way through, though. I only caught it part way through. So
I was hoping you were going to say because it was on The Good, the Bad, and the Odd. But
after his blinding review, cameo by Oliver Reed, it says here as well. Is that right?
Oh yeah, he's one of the carousers. Yes.
Excellent. Francis de Wolf's in it.
Francis de Wolf in it. Yeah.
Famous face that we're more than familiar with. And David Kossoff. Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, David Kossoff. You don't see much of the. I mean, it's in some interesting British films for sure. Kossoff. But he. I think this might have also almost been a screen test for Oliver Reed going into The Werewolf.
Because that's coming up, isn't it? That'll be the one after.
Yeah.
Looking forward to that. Okay, that's it for this week. That's The Brides of Dracula. Big thank you to Stephen for the Hall of Fame, the Crypt of Fame. Thank you, sir.
My pleasure. This time.
And big thank you for Mark for joining us for these special Hammer shows. Thank you, mate.
Yeah, it was great. Like I say, this is my favourite Dracula, so I was really keen to come on. I like all Hammer films, though, so they're all a pleasure.
Oh, good. I thought you were going to say this was your favourite, so that's it. You're not going to appear.
Yeah, I'm done. And that's my favourite Dracula Hammer. There are Hammer films that are better than this, I think.
Yeah.
This is
Interesting.
my favourite Dracula, without Dracula as well.
Okay, excellent. Guys, I'll see you next time. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Take care.
Shower. A positive shower.
Bon voyage.
Goodbye!
Good luck. Thank you.
Keeping the British hand up, sir.
I'm sick of brains.